In this video, we're going to discuss the picking process. The BonyFace interface is fairly straightforward and self-explanatory. The first thing we'd want to do here is click on the Pick Head button. So activate that button and choose the head. And when I do that, it goes through the procedures here, and it also, you'll notice in this case, has picked up the right eye, left eye, upper teeth, lower teeth, and tongue. And that's due to, as I mentioned in the previous lesson, it's due to proximity and also naming convention. Now I'm going to hit the Clear All button here so that I can pick these manually. I'd like to demonstrate that in this video. So at this point, all I'm really adding to the system is the head geometry, so I'll hit OK. And now we'll see that the head has been added. And what I can do to get it out of the way, because obviously it's in the way for the teeth here, is I'm going to hit the little hide button. So now the head is hidden, and I can see the eyes, the teeth, and the tongue is in there also. So you'll notice there are a lot of additional pieces, and this first set of lessons is really just to get you up and running with the most basic procedures that we can, the most fundamental procedures we can. So we're not going to do eyelashes or anything elaborate like that. So right below the eyelash picking button are buttons for the right eye and left eye. So I'll hit the R button for the right eye and then choose the right eye. And you'll see as I start to add these, I'll now hit the L button and add the left eye. We automatically get some control objects for the eyes. And this is nice because this will allow you to test whether that pivot point, which again was discussed in the first lesson, where you place that pivot point, if it's in the appropriate position. So if I select the eye control, I can see how the eyes are going to operate before I step farther into the rigging and skinning process. Now if the location is not quite right, we have the Move Lid Center button here, and you can see that moves the location of the eyelid pivot. And I'm just going to undo that to make sure it stays in the same location, which was in the back of the eye there. And then I can continue in the picking process. I can pick the upper teeth, so I'll click the upper teeth button and choose the upper teeth, and then I'll hide that to get it out of the way. Activate the lower teeth picking button, choose that, and get that out of the way by hitting the hide button, and there's the tongue. So that I can choose the tongue, and that's in the system as well. Now the tongue has a spline object that's created once you select it. And if you are using a tongue in your animation, you may want to take some time to modify this fitting spline so that it more reflects the tongue. And as you'll see in the next lesson where we get into spline fitting for the entire face, we fit the splines on one side or the other of the body and then mirror them to the other side. So you'll see here we basically have two splines. If I zoom in here a little closer, we have one for the center of the tongue and one for the right side of the tongue. So if I come over to my Modify panel, we'll see that this is an editable spline. And if I go into vertex mode here, I can now edit these splines so that they mirror my tongue a little bit better. So I'll just adjust these a little bit here like this, get them to reflect the shape of the tongue a little more by using my Move gizmo. And that should just about take care of it. So if I hide the tongue object, you can see how that spline is. There's an inner spline here that is the center of the tongue, and then the outer spline for the outside of the tongue. So then if I unhide everything, we have all of our objects picked and in the system. So I would also like to mention that at this point, this is a good time to save your model, because when we get to the spline process, which is the next phase in the BonyFace interface here, we see splines. We'll start generating splines that will allow us to define areas of the face, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the chin, the neck, and the forehead. When we get into that phase, we can't save the project midpoint. The splines will need to be saved as their own separate file and then reloaded in. So if you, and it can be very time consuming with the splines. So if you want to stop, take a break, come back and do it again, maybe a day later, you can't just save the max file. The splines need to be saved as a separate file and then reloaded to this position here. That might seem a little unclear at this point, but when we get into creating the splines, we'll do a demonstration of it so that you'll see how that works. So I would save my file now at this point as a max file, and then we would generate the splines and start fitting those. And that's what we will cover in the next lesson.